Yeah, so I'm recording now. So like I was saying, I said in the beginning of the course, in our first day of lecture, I raised the fact that this class can be considered as a project. Remember, we defined projects as a problem requiring a solution. And we said that in the discourse of a project, the gap between the problem and the solution in itself is the project as it is. And we said that we can assume this class to be a project in the sense that it has a beginning and an end date. It has a cycle in itself. It has a life cycle in itself. We said in a project, we need to identify a problem, right? And then we sort out solution to that problem. And then we ask ourselves, how do we intend to achieve or how do we intend to get to the place of the solution or actualize the solution to that particular problem? We said that itself is what a project is all about, right? And I said, if we use this class as an example, we can say that you identify the problem. And what is the problem? You have experience of project management. You are working within fields that require project management, but you don't have the certificate to back it up. That was the problem, right? And probably maybe some of us needed promotion and we needed one certificate or the other to back that promotion up and the like in our various offices. That itself is the problem. And then we ask ourselves, what is the solution to this problem? How do we solve our certificates problem, right? And then we told ourselves that if we get a certificate, then we will have solved the problem, right? That became the solution. And then how do we go about the solution? We went by applying to become students, and then now we are within the course of doing the different activities and milestones that will lead to us getting a certificate. The milestones and activities that will lead to us getting a certificate is one activity is we attending classes. The milestones is we passing each course, right? At the number of semesters in which you have. So we had 2 semesters in the program. So it implies that you have targeted that, okay, I'm going to have this, some number of courses in first semester, so another number of courses in second semester. I'm supposed to be in class at this time and that time at that time. These are the milestones that you have set out for yourself, right? And then at the end of the classes, you're going to write exams or you're going to write assignments and the likes, and you're going to write a thesis, right? So these are the things in which you will do, and then at the end of the day, you have your certificates. So you can at the end of the program say that you have done A, B, C, and D, and now you have a certificate. So basically, that is the journey of the projects to get a certificate that you have been doing. While in the course of this journey, you can ask yourself, how has it been thus far? What have I been doing in the course of this 1 year or in the course of these 6 months and the likes? So basically, that's what we want to look at as project monitoring and evaluation and assessment. And you can relate this to different kinds of projects. At every instance, within the stages of your projects, as wherever you are within your projects, there's a need to ask yourself, why am I here? And what have we done thus far, right? So the simple question of what have we done thus far, how are we feeling thus far, in itself is evaluation, in itself is monitoring, and in itself is assessment. So we want to look at them separately, project monitoring, evaluation and assessment, and then play around what is necessary for project monitoring, evaluation as well as assessment. Are we still together? Can you guys hear me? Are we still together?
Yes, we are.
Okay, thank you very much. Okay, I will log on my other device so that I can see your faces or your names for the times in which I will like to call you. So today, the basic learning objectives in which we want to have at the end of the lecture today, we will have discussed, like I said, project monitoring, evaluation, and assessment. Okay. We will have discussed the principle of developing a monitoring system within your project. What are the basic principles to that? I want to look at the program evaluation types, the features of monitoring and evaluation, the frameworks, guidelines for effective evaluation, evaluation standards, evaluation phases, and approaches to evaluation. So basically, these are the things in which we are hoping we will cover in the course of this program, in the course of this class. And like I said, as much as possible, I will not want to waste our time today. So we hope that we finish, we address everything we need to do in the next one and a half hour at most, and then we leave the class. But for that to happen, I will need you guys to contribute to the class so that we can move very fast. Okay? So to start with, yes, Musa, you can please mute yourself, unless you want to tell us what project monitoring is. And to that, let's start with you, Musa. Since your mic is unmuted, what is project monitoring? Since your mic is unmuted, Musa, can we start with you? What is project monitoring? I'm just saying, Musa, can you please come back to class? Okay, so let's mute Musa. Okay, he has muted himself. Okay. What is project monitoring? Anybody that want to help us with that? What is project monitoring? When we say project monitoring, what does that imply? Anybody? We need to move fast, and we need help to move fast. Yes, go ahead, Sizwe.
Yes, Skolani.
Okay, go ahead, please.
Okay, I think it's the checking different stages of the progress of the project of the project, whether we are achieving or whether we are not achieving the goals that we have set.
I like that. Yeah. That's beautiful. Yes. Any other? Yes, Sizwe, your mic is unmuted. Go ahead.
Yes, morning. Like Kolani is saying, it's where you keep an eye or tracking the status of the project. Is it going accordingly, or is it falling apart? So that if it's falling apart, what are the things that you need to apply so that the project is success? So it's where you watch the steps and the phases and making sure that everything is going accordingly. Yes, thank you.
Okay, thank you very much for that. Thank you guys for those beautiful contributions. I like the words you use: checking, keeping an eye on your project. And then you said, I'm just trying to synthesize the two contributions: checking, keeping an eye. And then you talk about the reason why we check and keep an eye is to ensure that we want to know if the project is going according to plan. And then We also want to know when the project is falling apart or if the project is actually efficient in itself. That covers entirely, in its entirety, what projects monitoring is all about. So quickly, we'll just continue for the sake of time, and I will just show some of the points in which I put out as project monitoring. So when we talk about project monitoring, it is the continuous observation process using systemic collection of relevant selected data to provide a project or programs management, including other stakeholders, with indicators about the progress being made and the objective reached, as well as about processes and impact of a project. That's according to OECD in 2002. But that itself covers the entirety of a project. It's a project monitoring as it is. It's when we talk about monitoring, just like our colleagues raised now, it is continuously checking, right? Keeping an eye, right? When we say keeping an eye, it's a continuous statement, right? On your project to ensure that it is following the pathway in which we have designed for it. So we said project monitoring itself also implies keeping track of the implementation process of a project, right? Keeping track of the implementation process of a project. You know, when we look at the whole stages of a project, from its initiation to the closure of the project, initiation, planning, execution, control, as well as the closure. Keeping track of how things apply. When we talk about keeping track, you see how it links up with our lecture on documentation yesterday. When we said that under documentation, you need to ensure that you record all the relevant activities that is going on in your project, right? And yesterday we also raised that you need to have documents like the issue and risk book, whereby you tell a story, right? And the essence is that so that others can look at your project and learn lessons from your project and know what to do and what not to do to ensure the success of subsequent projects. And we said yesterday also that in the point of documentation, you can make quick decision, right? And you will know when your project is at risk, and then you can quickly resolve the matter before it becomes catastrophic to the entirety of the project. So project monitoring also implies watching the progress of a project against the goals and deliverables. That is what the two colleagues have also raised, right? You are looking at, are we achieving what we actually intended to achieve, or have we changed course entirely? You want to know that in the course of your project. And then it also implies periodic checking of progress against targets. So these are some of the definition of projects monitoring. Okay, so when we talk about evaluation, what does that imply? What is evaluation? Now we know what monitoring is, to keep an eye, to watch. What is evaluation? Anybody? What is evaluation? Anybody want to help us? What is evaluation? Any idea? Should I start calling names now?
Hello?
Yeah, go ahead, please.
Yeah, I think when we evaluate, it's whereby we check we are checking at the impact of the project.
I like that, checking the impact of our project. Yes. Any other addition? If you cannot say anything, you can type. I will definitely read what you have. Yes, go ahead. Anyway.
Patrick, when we are evaluating the project, I think it's where we're starting to do the judgment about the amount of maybe the lacking or the success of or the how far is it of the project, and doing something of assessments over the project. I think
Wow.
that's
I like that. I like the words you used. You said judgments, the face of judgments, right? When we want to look at how far have we achieved what we have achieved, and where are we exactly in the course of where we want to be, right? So yeah, I like that. Okay, let's continue. I'm just going to show some of the things in which we wrote down there as evaluation. We said evaluation is also a systemic collection of information about an activity, about the activities, characteristics, and outcome of a project for use by people to reduce uncertainty, improve effectiveness, and make decisions, right? We said evaluation in itself improve and increase the capacity of your projects. It improve and increase the capacity of your projects. And again, the OECD define evaluation as systemic and objective assessment of ongoing or completed projects, program, or policy. Basically, that's what it implies, right? You are doing a systemic and objective assessment of your project. And I'm going to explain going forward what it implies when you do an assessment, when the project is ongoing and when the project has been completed. But the key word in evaluation is what? It is objective and it is systematic, right? And a systematic assessment of a project is what we imply by evaluation. And the aim of that is to determine the relevance of a project like we raised, right? And look at it in relation to the objective that we initially have set out for ourselves in the initiation phase of our project. Want to look at it, want to assess the objective and look at what we have, right? Do they tally? Are they apart? Are they in par? Is there a similarity between what we intended and where we are in itself, right? We said evaluation produce credible and useful information in the sense of lessons that have been learned in the course of the project, in order for us to make informed decision as relating to the project. So assessment, evaluation also implies assessment as to whether project activity conform with its standard, right? So there are different standards you want to look at: your organizational standard, the environmental standard, and different specifications you want to look at. So you do that when you evaluate. It's also studying past operating experiences, right? You want to look at other projects, the success factors of other projects, what led to the failure of other projects and the like, is what evaluation is. So we ask ourselves again, why do we do evaluation, right? We do evaluation to enhance accountability of a project, to provide feedback, and to promote sustainability of the institution. So basically, that is why we do evaluation, right? To enhance accountability, provide feedback, and promote sustainability of the institution, right? Or sustainability of the project as it is. So when we talk about monitoring, right? Because if you notice the two definition we just gave now, both in monitoring and evaluation, there seems to be what's an observation, right? To observe, there seems to be an observation of the project in itself. So there is a fine line that differentiates monitoring and evaluation. So we just look at the features of both monitoring, and then we first look at the features of monitoring, and then we look at the features of evaluation. So for monitoring, it is continuous. It is a day-to-day, right? It is a routine. It's something you do from the beginning of your project, right? From the initiation phase of your project, you're already monitoring. To the end of the project, you continue that. It ensures that input activities and output proceeds according to plan. That's why you do monitoring, right? To ensure that everything proceeds according to plan. To determine whether the inputs are optimally utilized, right? Remember in our systems approach to a project, we talked about, we spoke about inputs, and we said inputs are those resources, human and capital resources that we put into our project, right? That is transformed in the sense of activity and then gives us our outcome, which are our deliverables, right? And then we look at our deliverables and then we ask ourselves, is it what we intend? If it's what we intend, we continue on that ground. Remember, we gave an example of we going to the gym and our gym instructor when we were discussing the systems approach and the idea around inputs, okay? And then we also do monitoring and document progress using to document process using selected indicators. We want to document our progress as it happens, our milestones, our project milestones and our project deliverables. So we want to say, okay, yes, this is what we have achieved at this point, at that point, and on till the end of the project. And then we want to ensure that all activities are carried out by the right people and in time. So it is one thing for the activities to be carried out by the right people. It is another thing entirely for the activity to be carried out in time, in accordance to the set out targets of the project. So if you say you want to achieve a particular activity in 6 months, and then you end up achieving that particular activity in 1 year, that itself is not a success, right? It implies that you are failed in the sense that now you will need more, you need to expand the costs as well as the scope of your project. Remember, we discussed the dynamics of project constraint, how once you increase one, you need to increase the other. And then we provide record of input activities and outcome. One of deviation from objective. We quickly know when we are not within our desired pathway, right, of our projects. In monitoring, ensure that it assists managers in making decisions, and then it also takes place at it takes place and ensure the integration of all the stages of your projects within your project cycle. It also allows for self-assessment, right? Self-assessment in the sense that the project manager and the personnel of the projects can actually assess the project themselves and know where they are doing what is right. And when it comes to evaluation, evaluation is periodic. While monitoring is continuous, evaluation is periodic. It is either you do evaluation at the middle of your project or at the end of your project. I will explain what that implies. At the middle of the project is called summative, right? And then at the end of the project, at the middle of the project is called formative, while at the end of the project it is called summative evaluation, right? It is strategic in the sense that you want to ask, are things done right? Are you doing the right thing you're supposed to do? And the rationale or justification, you look at the rationale and justification of your project, you look at the impacts your project is having. That's when you look at, when you ask yourself the question, are things done right, right? So what you look at when you ask yourself, are things done right, is that you want to look at, yes?
You go further. Can you please just repeat that statement when you were saying the beginning of the project is called?
Okay, is that for evaluation, right?
Yeah.
Okay, so we said that you do evaluation either while your project is ongoing or at the end of your project, right? If you do the evaluation when it is ongoing, it's referred to as formative evaluation, right? And then when you do
it's called formative.
Yes, it's called formative. Then if you
Okay.
do the evaluation at the end of the project, it's called summative.
Summative.
Summative. So it is called formative, and it's called formative is while the project is ongoing. Summative is at the end of the project. Does that make sense?
All right.
Okay,
Yeah.
Thank you very much. So like I said, your evaluation can be strategic, can be looking at the strategy. If you are looking at strategy, you want to ask yourself, are things being done right? And what you are going to be looking at to know if things are going on the way they are supposed to is to look at the rationale or justification of your project, and then you look at the impact of your project, right? And you cannot look at the impact of your project at the beginning of the project, right? It will be once the project is being executed in itself. That is why you do evaluation either at the middle or at the end of your project. And then we talk about operations. Are things being done right? Right? So it is one thing for the ends to justify the means, in the sense that you still get your result regardless, even if you do not do the right thing, but you still get your result regardless, right? You might have tick yes and pass the question of, are things being done, right? Are the right things being done, right? On the point of strategy. It is possible for you to pass the point of strategy and fail on the point of operation, right? So that is possible. The reason why that is visible is, like I said, it is possible for you to do things in the ground that you are doing the ends justify the means. You do the protocol in which you go about doing your assignments may be wrong, but the results may be right, right? So for that reason, it is possible for you to actually get the result, but fail in the protocol in which you go about getting that particular result. So at the point of operation, you want to ask yourself, what is the effectiveness in the expected outcome? Is there efficiency in the use of resources, right, that have been put into the project? You want to ask yourself, what is the level of client satisfaction with the outcome that you have had? What are the external analyses and the like? So basically, that's what you want to look at under operation. And then under the third aspect of evaluation is learning, right? Are there better ways of doing what you are doing? So it is also visible for you to have achieved your results, right? You have achieved what you have set out to achieve. But the question is, are there better ways of doing what you are doing? Are there better ways of achieving more with less resources, right? You also want to ask yourself that question. Can you achieve more with less resources? So in that case, you're going to be looking at alternatives. What are the alternatives that are available for you to achieve the same thing and use other protocols? And then what are the lessons that you have learned? And then what are the impacts of your project? So these are some of the things in which we look at in the course of the evaluation, right? So these are key points to look at. Any question thus far? Can we continue? Please give me a sign if we can continue.
Yes, you can continue.
Okay, thank you very much. Okay, so basically these are the things in which you look at when we talk about our project monitoring and evaluation. So what are the principles for developing monitoring system? The principles for developing monitoring system. These are the things in which you must, when we talk about principles, we are talking about the rules, the things you must look out for in the course of developing your monitoring system. Your monitoring system must be demand driven, right? It must be demand driven. It must be based on need, right? It must be as simple as possible, simple and easy. Don't develop a complex monitoring system, right? Make it as simple and easy as possible so that everybody within your organization can be involved. That goes to participatory. Your monitoring system must be participatory. It must, you should be able to have everybody within your project involved in the monitoring system, right? Your monitoring system should not be about policing or judgment, but for learning. What do we imply by that? You should not design a monitoring system that is meant to discipline your colleagues, right? Or to discipline your downlines as it is. But rather, you should develop a monitoring system just so that you can learn from the activities that are going on in your project. If you develop the monitoring system in such a way that everybody understands that they are not to police us or to punish us if we go wrongly, then you know that it's the chances that you will develop an efficient monitoring system that is participatory becomes high, right? Everybody will be willing to contribute into the monitoring system. So ensure that when you're developing your monitoring system, it is designed with the agenda to learn and not to police your downlines. And then your monitoring system should have what we refer to as a mixed method, right? In research methodology, I suppose you will have discussed this mixed method, right? It should have both quantitative and qualitative data. When we talk about qualitative data, we said it should have both words and it should have numbers. Qualitative is words, quantitative is numbers. So it should be a mixture of both words and numbers. So when you have a graph, right, a graphical presentation of your progress, what you are doing, the numbers and everything, there should be words that explain those things. You cannot just drop numbers for us, right? And then you are presenting to stakeholders and you just present numbers. And then there are no words to explain those numbers to ordinary stakeholders, right? It must be the aggregation of data. You must ensure that your system, your monitoring system is an aggregation of data that are available within the course of the project. And then you must also provide a two-way feedback system. All right, when we talk about a two-way feedback system, we're talking about both from the top as well as the bottom, right? A feedback system in the sense that you are able to provide feedback to your downlines, and your downlines are also able to provide feedback to you. And then you're also able to provide feedback to the stakeholders, in as much as the stakeholders are able to provide feedback to you. So you must ensure that it's not a one-way traffic when you are doing your monitoring system. It should not be one-way traffic, but it should be a two-way traffic whereby there is a synergy in the monitoring system, right? It must be meaningfully used meaningful use of analyzed information at source, right? Once you gather this information, you should be able to analyze it in such a way that you can make use of it. Remember, we discussed this also when we were discussing documentation in our last class, and when we said that information must be collected in a timely manner. It must be analyzed and utilized in a timely manner, right? When we say the success of a project is not just about planning alone, but also the collection of information and the analysis of that information in a timely manner. So this is what happens within your monitoring system. So now we'll talk about the monitoring approach. Like I said, it is two-way. There's a top-bottom approach. What implied by the top-bottom approach is that it is when you do the monitoring from the top, the leadership of the project monitoring the downlines in the project. You are trying to look at your subordinates as it is, right? And then the bottom-top approach is when the people provide guidance in the sense of, that is, those people at the downline provide guidance in the sense of what we should monitor. When they try to, when they are the one that determine the significant points to look at within the monitoring system. So it's more from the downlines, and then it moves up the hierarchy in the course of your monitoring. That's why this also speaks to the two-way feedback we're talking about, whereby there's a top-bottom as well as a bottom-top monitoring within your project as well as your organization. And when it comes to monitoring, there are steps in which you need to look at. First, you need to identify the different units that are involved in the planning and implementation. You need to identify the units, and not just the unit alone. You need to identify the personnel that are accountable and responsible at every stage of your project. Remember yesterday in the last class, we raised the RACI metrics, right? Remember when we said the RACI metric, we said you need to identify who is responsible, accountability, right? You need to identify those people that are everybody within your organization and what they are responsible for and what they are accountable to, who do they communicate to, right? Who use the information and the like. So that you need to identify that's the first thing you need to identify in your monitoring. And then you identify how feedbacks will be required, right? Identify items on which feedback is required. Then you develop your monitoring, your reporting medium. There should be a reporting medium. Are they going to be sending you emails? Are they going to be dropping it somewhere? Then is it going to be anonymous, right? Especially when you are doing a bottom-top approach in your monitoring system, you may want to consider an anonymous reporting medium, in the sense that probably you just have a box whereby people just drop their comments. I think most of us in our various offices, especially if you're working in a public institution, you always have that. Whereby if you go to the, you have a public suggestion box, as it is, whereby people can actually drop comments on what they have observed, maybe the way the staff in the office have been treating people and the likes. If people can drop that, right? It's anonymous. Sometimes there are phone numbers that you can call to report and the like. So that's when you look at it from the bottom top, whereby the stakeholders, in sense of your clients and those people at your downlines, determine the reports on the things they have observed in the course of the activities of your project. And then you must develop your reporting period. Will your reporting period be weekly? Is it daily? Is it monthly or yearly? There has to be you have to determine the period in which reporting will come up. And then you assign responsibility of reporting at different stages. Who should be responsible for reporting? One very obvious point is that at every time in your project, when nobody's responsible for anything, right, then nobody will do it. Most likely nobody will do it because everybody will expect the other person to do it, right? And if there is a failure of that particular segment, you want to know who should be accountable for that failure, right? Or who should we praise for the success of that particular segment of your project. So for that reason, we also need to assign responsibility of reporting at different level. And then we process, analyze the information that we have gathered. You cannot just collect this information and just dump them. It must be analyzed, and it must be analyzed in a timely manner. Once it comes in, for us to identify what we need to identify. Then we said the next point after analysis is what? To identify critical or unreliable areas in implementation, right? We identify places whereby there are weaknesses, and then we ask ourselves, how do we fix this weakness? And then we provide feedback to correct those measures. You realize that when you look at the steps in monitoring, it goes back to the systems approach, right? you realize that it starts from the input, there's a general transformation, then there's an output, then goes back to the feedback loop, and then again, it starts again afresh. It's a continuous cycle, right? In the sense that input is when all the points around identifying different units of your planning, identifying the items you want to have feedback on, developing a reporting system, developing reporting period, assigning responsibility. All these are within your inputs, right? The transformation process is when you process, analyze the reports, and you identify. The transformation process will not be where you process and analyze the reports. The outcome will be identifying the areas that needs improvements, right? Or areas that you can continue doing what you used to do, and then you provide feedback. When you provide feedback, it goes back again to the inputs, and on. You continue that cycle, right? So when it comes to your monitoring and evaluation, your inputs, it has to be continuous, right? You need to monitor your resources at the resources that goes into your projects. That has to be continuous. The entire costs, the material, the human and capital resources that goes into your project has to be monitored continuously. When it comes to the outcomes, the outputs of your project in the sense of the deliverables, that can be measured quarterly, or you determine the time in which you measure that. That does not necessarily have to be continuous, in the sense that it has to be after the outcome has been achieved that you can provide monitoring. And the same thing also goes with the outcomes. The outcome in the sense of the change in behavior or skills as a result of the project you have implemented. That can be short or to medium term. The frequency of monitoring of the outcome is short to medium terms. And then when it comes to impact is always long-term, because it's a long-term effect of outcomes, right? That's what it is, the long-term effect of outcome. In this case, we want to look at the intervention itself. What are the effects of the intervention, right? As the life of the people, as it change over time. Has there been, say, let's say if you are doing, say, an empowerment project, you want to see, have they been empowered over time? Has there been increase in income, right, over time? Or if you are looking at mortality, right, just say infant mortality or maternal mortality and the like, you want to look at, has there been either increase or decrease in mortality within that particular project? So you want to look at the essence of the project over a long period of time. Do you see a measurable change in that particular project? So basically, that's what you look at. So in your monitoring and evaluation framework, this is the framework you want to look at. Your indicators in the sense of numbers, how you determine what should be calculated, what is your baseline, what is your target value, what is your source, how frequent do you want to do your monitoring and evaluation, and who is responsible to do this monitoring and evaluation, and then who do you report to? Do you report to the public? Do you report to your superior? Do you report to the people directly? So these are things in which you want to look at, right? Which stakeholder do you report to as it is? And then also you want to look at the goal of your project, the outcome, as well as the output. So at every stage, you want to look at this, right? So the key questions you want to ask yourself when you are doing an evaluation, you ask the 5 W and H question: the what, the why, the who, the where, when, and the how. How do you do this? First, you ask yourself what progress have been made. You need to know the progress that have been made over time, right? This is key in your evaluation. So what are the progress that have been made? were the desired outcome achieved? If the desired outcome is achieved, you ask yourself how. How has it been achieved? And if the desired outcome was not achieved, then you ask yourself why, right? I think I need to put this. I may say, if yes, how? If no, why? This makes more sense, right? So this makes more sense. So you ask yourself, is the desired outcome achieved? If yes, how? If no, why? Right? It's a question in which you ask yourself. Then you also want to ask yourself, does the project result justify the project inputs? So it's possible for you to put in a lot when it comes to input, and then the result itself will not be commensurate with your input. If that happens, you want to go back to ask yourself, why and how, right? So you go back and forth in this question when you ask. For instance, if you put in, if you target that you are going to spend, say, 500 million rands, and you are supposed to reach out to 500,000 people, and then you ended up spending 500 million rands, and you only reach out to 100,000 people. You want to ask yourself why, what happened in the course of the project, right? You want to know. And then if you said you are going to use 500,000 rands to reach out to 500 people, and you end up using 200,000 and you reached out to 1,000 people, you also want to know how did you achieve that. So it's a two-way thing. In as much as you want to look at the success of your project, you also want to look at the failure over time. And then are there ways that the project activities can be refined to achieve better results? So even if you achieved your initial plan for your project, you still want to ask yourself, are there better ways to improve the efficiency of your project, right? So these are questions in which you ask. So specifically, you want to know, what exactly are you evaluating? You want to know, what will success mean for this project, right? You want to know what exactly is success for this project. That is key. And then what information indicators should show how successful the project has been. How do we measure success, right? So there are different indicators, or there are different, what you see as success may be different, may be relative. It may be determined by your society, the environment you find yourself, the people you are dealing with, and the like. So there are different indications to what success implies. So we must be able to determine what success in itself is. And then realistically, what resources do you have, right? It goes back to that, what our initial discussion on SMART, right? You must realistically determine what you have and what you need, right? So basically that's that. And then quickly, let's look at the types of evaluation, right? We'll look at types of evaluation. There are two forms when it comes to the types of evaluation. There's evaluation by time frame. And so under evaluation by time frame, you want to, these are the types. We have the formative evaluation, we have the process evaluation, summative evaluation, outcome, as well as impact evaluation. So for the formative evaluation, we said it provides information to guide program improvements. The process evaluation determines whether a program is delivering as intended to the targeted recipients. That's the process, right? The activity in itself. And then we must note that for formative and process evaluation, they are appropriate when the project is ongoing, right? So formative and process evaluation happens when the project is ongoing, right? While summative evaluation is done at the end of the project, right? And it makes judgment as to whether the program achieved its intended results, right? In this place, you want to know if the goals and objective were met, right? And then, so basically that's what you do at the summative evaluation. So it's called the summary judgment of your project. And then the outcome evaluation also focus on what? The observable condition of a specific population, organizational approach, organizational attributes, or social condition that the project was expected to change, right? Has there been a measurable change in the course of the project, or at the end of the project? Was there a measurable change? And again, also, it's important for us to note that both the summative and the outcome evaluation happens what? At the end of the project. And it intends to focus on the condition or behavior that the program are expected to effect directly and immediate, right? So the immediate effects or impact of your project is what you look at under the summative as well as the outcome evaluation. And then the last is what? The impact evaluation. So under impact evaluation, you are looking at what? Long-term, the long-term effects of your project, right? So basically that's what we look at when we talk about different evaluation in itself. Are you doing a formative evaluation or a summative evaluation? Are you doing a process evaluation in the sense of looking at the activity that we're going on in the project, or you are doing an outcome evaluation looking at what has transpired immediately after the end of the project, or you are doing an impact evaluation when you want to look at the long-term effects of your project? So that's evaluation by time frame, right? So here we said summative, outcome, and impact evaluation are appropriate to conduct when the project either has been completed or has been going on for a substantial period of time. So when you have a project that is going on for say 5 years, 10 years, then you can do a summative outcome and impact evaluation. Okay, so evaluation by formats. First, by timing, you ask yourself when to evaluate. So when we talk about evaluation by timing, remember we said this is evaluation by time frame. What we imply by that is that when do you do this evaluation in the course of the project? That's what we're looking at here, right? The period in which the evaluation happened. So we said formative and process is during the project. Summative, outcome, and impact is after the project. That's summarily what we discuss here. Now, by the format of evaluation, when it comes to timing, we look at the formative and the summative evaluation, right? That's by timing, in the sense that formative is during, formative is during, summative is after. Then by agency, then we want to look at who is doing the evaluation, right? We have internal evaluation and we have the external evaluation, as the word implies. Internal evaluation done by members of that particular project or the organization. External evaluation done by people that are external to the organization as well as to the project. So you're talking about your inspectors, government agency that's provide standard for different projects and the likes. So those ones are what? The external evaluators, or maybe certification agency and the like. So these are what? External evaluators, as it is. So basically these are the two types of evaluation that happens when it comes to agency, who is doing the evaluation. And when it comes to stages of evaluation, we have ongoing, during the implementation, and then we have the terminal at the end, immediately after the project, and then we have the ex-post, right? The ex-post is after a time lag from completion of the project. So these three is the ongoing is the process, the terminal is the outcome, and then the ex-post is the impacts. The impact evaluation. So basically that's what the stages there is. So by timing, formative and summative, by agency, internal and external, by stages, we have the process evaluation, which is ongoing, the terminal, which is outcome, and the ex post, which is the impact evaluation. Okay. And then when it comes to the different evaluation tools that we use the feedback form, statistical report, checklist, graphical presentation, progress report, statistics, right? Project schedule charts, projects financial status reports, internal reports, and different kind of tools. A lot. And definitely more than what we have itemized here. We just itemized 20. And so there are different evaluation tools in which we use to assess our project or evaluate our projects as it is. So for an effective evaluation, there are guidelines in which we must follow, right? And these are the guidelines that we should follow. We must engage our stakeholders, right? And ensure that all partners are invested in what will be learned from the evaluation, right? Remember, under monitoring, we said it must be participatory. So that's what it implies by the engagement. Everybody must be involved, right? And they must see the need for an evaluation and see the fact that there are lessons that should be learned from it. We must describe. When we imply description, we must describe the program clearly to identify the goals and objectives of the program. That way we can now look at the goals and objectives of the program as versus the outcomes and impacts of the program. And then we must design our evaluation to be useful. It must be visible, it must be ethical, and it must be accurate. The SMART strategy must come to play when we do our evaluation, right? And we must do evaluation that is useful, that is usable by the organization. And then we must gather relevant evidence and strengthen the results of the evaluation, right? We must ensure that the data you are collecting are essential data. And then number 5, you must justify your conclusion, right? There have to be a link between the results and the judge. Your results must be judged against the standard that is required in the project in itself. And then you must deliberately ensure the use of evaluation and shared lesson, right? You cannot just do evaluation and just throw away the results at the end of the day. It must be used by the organization in itself, right? So it goes back to engagement, all right? We must ensure that the results we gather as a result of the evaluation is put into effective use going forward. So evaluation standard, there are 4 major categories we look at. We look at the property standard, we look at the utility standard, we look at the visibility standard, and we look at the accuracy standard. So these are key when you discuss evaluation. So under property standard, you want to ensure that your evaluation is legal, is ethical, and it promotes the welfare of everybody involved in your organization. Under utility standard, as the word implies, utility, you want to ensure that it meets the needs of your intended user. Under visibility, you want to ensure that everything is smart, right? Your activity, the project itself is specific, it is measurable, it's attainable, it's realistic, and it's time-bound. That's what you want to look at under visibility. How realistic is the scope and method of your project? And another accuracy, as the word implies, you want to ensure that everything is as it should be, right? You want to ensure that the results are valid. You want to ensure that you have both internal and external validity to what you have evaluated and the likes. And you are making justifiable conclusion as a result of the data you have gathered in the course of the evaluation. So that's what we talk about when we talk about the accuracy standard of your evaluation. And then when it comes to evaluation phases and process, you do evaluation from the planning and initiation phase till the closure of your project. So there's always a planning where you design, when you design your evaluation protocol, right? There's the implementation phase. At the implementation phase, you ask yourself if you are going to be doing, if in the implementation phase, you do both the formative and process evaluation. At the completion phase of your project, you do summative outcome and impact evaluation, and then you also do a reporting. There has to be the dissemination of the reports that you gather from the evaluation. So basically, these are the things in which you do as a different phase of your evaluation. So at the planning phase, at the implementation phase, at the completion phase, as well as dissemination of your projects. Are we still together? People, are we still together? Do I still have my class with me or I'm alone? Okay, thank you very much for the sign. Okay, thank you. Great. So basically that's what you look at in your evaluation. And then when it comes to approaches to evaluation, we have two basic approaches to evaluation. It's either it is participatory or it is empowerment, right? As the word implies, participatory and empowerment. So under participatory, you actively engage the stakeholders in all the evaluation process. Everybody is involved in the evaluation process. And when it is empowerment, it means that you want to help equip the program personnel with the necessary skill to conduct their own evaluation and then ensure that the program runs effectively. As the word implies, empowerment, right? At that point, you want to equip them with certain skills that are necessary at that point. So under participatory evaluation, we said it helps improve the program performance. First, because you involve the stakeholders in the evaluation, design, and decision making, right? You acknowledge and address the asymmetric level of power and voices among the stakeholders. You use multiple and varied methods and having actions components so that evaluation findings are useful for the end user. So this is why this is the participatory evaluation, right? Everybody is involved in the decision making. And you know what it implies when you involve everybody in the decision making? The community and the stakeholders it is, when we talk about stakeholders here, we're talking about those personnel that work within the projects, your downlines, your superiors in the sense of those people you report to, the community and the likes. When everybody is involved, there's a sense of ownership to the project. And when there's a sense of ownership to the project, you realize that there's more efficiency in that particular project because everybody sees the project as their own, right? So everybody treats it that way. And then there are different voices that you get to hear. You hear different hierarchy of voices. As you're hearing from the people, you're hearing from your downlines, you're hearing from your superior, everybody is contributing to the project, right? And then the information that you gather becomes useful for everybody within the course of the project. So basically, that is the participatory evaluation. Now, under the participatory evaluation, the characteristics of participatory evaluation, first, is focused on participant ownership. Like I said, everybody owns the project, right? There's a sense of ownership by everybody. Here, participants meet to communicate and negotiate to reach consensus on the evaluation results. Input is sought and recognized from all participants. Everybody is involved. Emphasis is on identifying lessons learned to help improve the project. So there's no policing or punishments that is accorded at any point or at any stage of the monitoring or in the evaluation. Everybody is there to ensure that we gather the lessons learned to improve on what we are doing in the course of the project. and then it is always flexible. Evaluation is not rigid, right? It's flexible in the sense that it's subject to change, right? We may change the protocol in the course of the evaluation, and it's based on empirical data to determine what happened and why it happened. Remember I said you need to look at the 5W and H question. You must ask the why, the when, the who, the where, right? You must ask this question and as well as the how, right? And then stakeholder are able to conduct evaluation with an outside expert serving as what? As facilitator, right? The people are involved, right? They're able to evaluate themselves. You as the outside stakeholder in most cases, you are just a facilitator, right? So it's more of what? A bottom-top approach. The people decide what they do and then pass it across. So it's not you coming to tell them what they want in the community. And most times that is what we do. We go to communities and we tell them, this is what we think you need, right? But it's always interesting when you do the bottom top, whereby it is the community that is telling you what they need, as compared to you coming to tell them what they need, right? So that's always interesting. So in a participatory evaluation, these are the steps to also carry out. First, you identify who should and want to be involved in the evaluation. Sometimes it's not the entire communities that want to be involved. Sometimes we want to identify those interested and those that should be involved, right? And then you clarify the expectation of your participants, what is required by the project or the organization from the participant in the evaluation exercise. And then you define the priorities, right? Sometimes if the priorities is not defined, there's no clarity in the aims and objective of your evaluation, it is likely that you just be going many places. And then you identify the indicators that will provide information needed. You agree on the method, you collect the information, you analyze the information, you agree on how the findings will be disseminated and who will disseminate the findings, and then you clarify the process. So basically that's the protocol you go about. Next is the empowerment evaluation. And empowerment evaluation, like we said, it helps to ensure that the program success by providing stakeholders with the tools and skills to evaluate the program themselves, right? So that's what the empowerment evaluation is all about. Another, the empowerment evaluation, there are 4 steps to look at. You take stock of the program to determine where the program is now, what are the strengths of the program, and what are the weaknesses of your program or of your project as it is. You establish the goal for future, right? With an explicit emphasis on the improvement of your program or your project as it is. Then you develop strategies to help the participant determine how their strengths can be replicated, right? How their own strengths can be used to accomplish the program goals and activities. In this sense, what are the resources that are available in the community, and how can we utilize what we have, right, in ensuring the success of that particular project. And finally, you also want to look at helping program participants decide on whether the evidence, what they've gathered, right, if there's a need for progress, right? You also want to determine that in the course of your project. So we said helping program participants decide on and gather the evidence needed to document progress towards achieving their goal. What is it that they need, right, to put down the progress they have achieved thus far? So you help participants decide that. So basically that's what you do under empowerment. You are providing skills and tools that are necessary to ensure that the participants can do the evaluation themselves. Under participants, everybody is involved. Under empowerment, here you are providing the skills so that they can do the evaluation. So the characteristics of evaluation include community ownership of design and conduction of evaluation and implementation of findings. The values improvement in people, program, and organization. Like we said, we're providing skills to them. Inclusion of appropriate participants at all levels, participants at all levels of the programs, the funders, the community, and the likes. Democratic participation and clear and open evaluation plans and method. Commitment to social justice and fair allocation of resources. Use of community knowledge to understand local context and also to interpret results. Use of evidence-based research and evidence-based strategies, right, with adaptation to the local community environment and culture. Building capacity of your program staff and participants. Organizational learning. Accountability to funders as funders' expectation. So basically, these are the basic characteristics of the empowerment evaluation, right? The things in which you look forward to. So when you are doing your evaluation of the community, there are questions you will need to ask. First, you need to ask yourself, are the right committee member at the table? Because sometimes when you do evaluation and you did not identify the right stakeholder, the right stakeholders that are supposed to be at the table, you will have just wasted your time, right? So you want to know who are the major stakeholders that are supposed to be in your meeting, right? If you put people that are not influential within the community, like I said, you will just have wasted your time. So you must ask yourself, after the formation of the team, are these the right people? Are these the movers and shakers of the community? Are these people that can ensure change in relation to the project you are carrying out? So this is very important. Then the second question you ask yourself is that the process and structure of meeting allow for all voices to be heard and equally valued, right? You must ensure that nobody is overpowering the other in the course of your evaluation, right? It must not be a group think, but you must be able to gather valuable information from every member of the community or of the evaluation team as a stand. And then you also want to ask yourself, how are the community members involved in developing the program or the intervention you are talking about, right? How will they be involved and how are they involved? So this is very important, right? And then how will the community members involve? How would they be involved in implementing the program or intervention? That again needs to be clear, right? How would they be involved in the implementation of the program in itself? And then also you want to ask yourself, how would the community member involved in the program? How would they be involved in the evaluation and data analysis in itself? So first is, how would they be involved in the implementation of the program? How would they be involved also in the evaluation of the program? So that needs to be clear. And then what kind of learning has occurred, both for the community members as well as for yourself, right? For all the stakeholders, in fact, you want to know what kind of learning that has occurred. So basically, these are the questions you want to ask yourself in the course of your evaluation, right? So that's that on evaluation. Any question thus far? Can we continue? Okay, I'll assume that the silence implies that we can continue. So let's talk about product assessment. Product assessment. let's talk about product assessments. So when we talk about assessments, all managers need to assess your projects. At every instance, there's a need for an assessment. And like we said, an assessment is to look at the activities in the sense of our milestones, our activities, and our deliverable as against the project essence, the objective of the project. Basically, that's what it implies when we look project assessment. So in the indicators for assessment, first we want to ask the types. We have the direct assessment and the indirect assessment. And when we talk about the direct assessment, implies directly pinpointing at the subject of interest. That's the direct assessment. The indirect assessment is when indicators cannot be measured directly. Things like behavioral change, you cannot measure behavioral change. You cannot measure good governance in itself, right? Improve standard of living and the likes. So in most cases, you do an indirect assessment of these indicators, right? So direct indicators, you can actually look at them, they pinpoint the subject of interest and measure the subject of interest. And then when it comes to project assessments, there's a slight difference between what project assessment is and what evaluation is in itself. Project assessment is ongoing. Evaluation in most cases is always final. Project assessment is process-oriented, while evaluation is product-oriented. Process-oriented in the sense of the activities, right? While evaluation is product-oriented. Project assessment is diagnostic in the sense that you want to look at where the issues are and how to fix the issue. Evaluation is judgmental, right? So basically, these are the obvious difference between assessment and evaluation. And when we do assessments, we want to look at the economic factors involved. We want to look at the social factors. We also want to look at the environmental factors, right? So these are the basic things you look at when you do assessment. So like key assessment indicators for project sustainability. You look at all this. So when you look at the economy, you want to look at your demand and supply, your market demand and supply, the financial risks, the life cycle in sense of benefit and risks, the project budgets, the internal return ratio, the life cycle cost, technical advantage, peak back period, and the likes. That's what you look at under the economic factor. Under the social factor, you want to look at the public safety of your project, the effect on the local development, scale of serviceability. You want to look at the auxiliary amenities that are available, public sanitation, and the likes. And then when it comes to the environment, you want to look at the effects on your natural environment in sense of on land, on air, on water, pollution, and the likes, the ecological effects, right? Environmental protection measures, and the likes. So basically, that's what you look at when you do your assessment. You want to look at all these indicators, right? And you want to ensure that the process of your project aligns with these indicators and it is not affecting these indicators negatively. So basically, that's what you do in your assessment. And then finally, I'm going to just stop in this slide, is the challenges that you face when you do your monitoring, evaluation, and assessment. The first challenge is the commitment to do it, right? It is always very easy for us to say, you need to do assessment, and these are the ways to do it and the likes. But getting commitment of people, stakeholders within your project to do this monitoring, evaluation, and assessment is always a challenge, right? Establishing baseline at the beginning of the project is also another challenge. Identifying realistic indicators is a basic challenge in the course of projects. Identifying realistic indicators of the project, finding time to do it. So first is the commitment to do it, in the sense that will people be consistent in doing that project over time? Secondly is finding time to do it and to stick to it. So in most cases, you realize that people start monitoring and evaluation, but they don't finish it, or they are not consistent in doing that particular monitoring or evaluation or the assessment of their project, because there's no time. And then getting feedback from stakeholders. Sometimes it may take forever for you to get feedback from your stakeholders, which becomes a challenge in the course of your project. And then reporting to stakeholder also, right? Sometimes it's also difficult to report your findings to stakeholders because they are not even available in the first place for you to report to them. So basically, these are some of the challenges in which you face when you do monitoring and evaluation. So I want to stop here and ask for question and feedback. So in essence, I'm stopping here and asking for evaluation for the course or for this particular one we have covered. Any contribution, any feedback, anything you want to say? I think we can hear you for the next 5 minutes and 5-10 minutes, and then we end the class. Contribution and feedback from everything we've said today.
Patrick, my feedback, sorry about that.
Yeah, go ahead, please.
I just want to mention that thank you for making it clear on my side between the evaluation and the assessment, because now I understand very clearly that when I am doing an evaluation, it's where I am doing the judgment of the project. But then when I am doing the assessment, it's where I am finding out and the ways that I can make it successfully. It's just that now it's clear to me and all the other aspects that you've covered. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much for that positive feedback. That's nice. Yes. Any other contribution and feedback? We are also doing evaluation now. And this in itself is summative evaluation. Yes, you can raise a feedback or you can ask a question. Anyone you want to do, it's fine. Any other person? Can we have 1 or 2 before we end the class? Okay, should I start calling names now? You can unmute yourself and let's hear you. If this is a political meeting, we are going to say, give us a message of support. Let's hear your voice. Is Musa with us today? I know you've typed in a comment section that you're having issue with your system. Has that been resolved? Okay. It's either I've confused you the more or you have clarity. So can we be clear on that? I need to hear one or 2 more persons before we end the class. I'm done from my side now. I need you to say 1 or 2 things before we end the class. And then I will talk about our assignments, and then we'll probably end the class there. Any contribution, any question? Okay, if there are no questions on the lecture in itself, can I ask if there are questions relating to the assignments, the assignment for my section that we are supposed to submit in about 2 weeks' time? In 20 days from now, actually.
To be quite honest with you, Patrick, myself on my side with the assignment, because I'm still going through with the slides. And can I ask you, did you put the link to listen to the records on the Learn Moodly? Because I can't find the links.
But it's there.
For the recording.
Okay, so let me share my screen on the links for the recording for my session. I'm going to stop share this, and then I will share the entire screen. Okay. Okay, so this is, can you see my screen?
Yes, I can see it.
Okay, so so when you go to the Learn platform, I suppose your Learn platform also shows like this, right?
Yeah, it shows like this, yeah.
Oh, great. Okay, so you see different videos, right?
Yeah.
This is the first lecture, right?
Yeah.
0502 lecture video. This is the first lecture. So it was recorded. And then I don't know for Max if he, let's see. Okay, so this is Max lecture, live lecture, the second class you had. Can you see?
Oh, okay. But on my side, maybe I need to refresh my Learn, because like yesterday, I wasn't able to see the live lectures videos, but I do see the assignments and all that stuff.
Just before the assignments for week 1, you see the live lecture video. This is it.
Okay.
Right? And then the same thing happens in yesterday's class. This is Mark's class. This is Mark's lecture. Yeah, and then yesterday's class, let's see. This is the live lecture.
Oh, okay. All right.
So this is the live lecture. Explain this saying, history of law is bound to repeat itself. So this is the live lecture. If you click on it, it takes you to YouTube.
Oh,
right?
all right. No problem, Patrick. I'll just figure it out on my side how it works. But if it's there, I'll refresh my computer, and then I'll see if it comes up. And but I haven't started with the questions. I was still just reading back and make sense, to try to put things together and to make sense to me. But yeah. All right.
That's all right. At the end of this class, I'm going to also post this recording for this lecture. It's going to be the last item in the week session. So yeah, so that will be posted at the end of the class. Okay. Any other question before we end the class?
Hi, Patrick.
Yeah, hello.
I don't know. From my side, thank you for the lecture today. I just wanted to check. I'm taking a chance here. Does anyone have this Van der Walt guide to project management by any chance? Because I've been trying to search for that textbook and I'm not winning. And
yes, you can. I suppose you can get it on the UKZN website.
Can I get an online copy though?
Yes, you can get the online copy. When you go to the website, go to e-library.
Okay.
When you go to e-library, there's a lot of materials there, and it's also there. The only thing is that you cannot download the entire book, right? but you can download them chapter by chapter. And then I think you can only download 20 pages, 20 page, I think is it 20 or 10 pages per download. So you can have a situation whereby in a chapter that is more than 20 pages, you download the first 10, right? And then you download the second 10 thereafter. So I think it allows you to do that. I'm trying to see, I think I don't know. I think I have, I also check my folder for the materials that's relating to this. I think I have the text somewhere. I'll find it.
Okay, no, that could help, Patrick.
Yeah, but yeah, just go on the what's it called now? On the UKZN website, you're going to get most of these things there.
Okay.
Yeah.
No, thanks, Patrick.
Okay. Any other contribution or question? Okay, if there's none, I guess we will end the class here. Okay, yeah, this is it, right? This is what you are looking for.
Yes.
Okay, what I don't think I have. Okay, I'm going to send, I'll probably send this. Let me see. I'll see if I can send it to everybody. I don't know if I can do an attachment, but yeah.
Or you can send it as a link, I think.
Okay, great. I'm going to put it in the, I'm going to just put it in, let's see.
No, Patrick, try the way that you were trying to do it now to attach it here on the
No.
on the
Yes, I'm
N22.
just going to attach it here on the course, the learn platform. Probably you just
Please.
have it as the first after the course outline. I'm going to add it after the course outline, so you find it there.
No, thank you so much, Patrick.
It's all right. Okay, so any other contribution before we end this session? Okay, I will assume that we are good and honors. Okay. Okay, thank you very much, guys. I will see you when I see you. It's been a lovely 3-day session or 1-week session as it is. And I wish you the very best. And you all have my contact. If at any point you have a challenge and you need me, you can send me an email. My response rate is not bad, right? So I will definitely reach back if there's any.
We will see if it's not bad when we send you emails. We will see there.
I can assure you that my response rate is not bad, right?
We are the ones who have to rate you.
Okay, you're the ones that have to do the evaluation, right? Huh?
Patrick, quick one. Are you able to evaluate our assignments before the due date?
No, that will be double work for me. Since I will be the one to mark it.
Pardon?
Since I will be the one to mark it, right?
I mean, I want to know if I'm on the right track. I don't want to waste my time and your time putting junk and it's not the appropriate stuff.
Well, it's going to be appropriate stuff. Just follow the requirements, right? Follow the basic step I've given for the assignments. If you do that, I can assure you that you will not have a problem at the end of the day. Okay. Right? So just follow this basic step in which I have here. In your introduction, state the problem in the sense of, like I said, if we give an example that you are working on a project that has to do with empowerment, right? Youth empowerment. The problem will be that you want to say that in KZN there is youth unemployment in KZN. If you state anything, ensure that you reference it properly, right? State the source of where you get whatever you are saying. Then discuss your projects. Tell us what the project is all about, and then explain the aim of your assignment. That itself is 20 marks. And then you discuss the system approach. In every discourse we have been having, you realize that the system approach is central to everything we do in project management and in other aspects of life, right? There's always going to be inputs. The input in the sense of the resources, both human and capital. So you explain the human and capital resources that are available for your project or that you put into your project. And then the transformation, you talk about the activities that have transpired in the course of your project. And then you talk about the outcomes. And then you talk about how the outcome relates back as a feedback to the input. You're able to explain that. Does it reinforce your project? Does he tell you to change your style? You explain that, right? And you explain what the system is also. And then you do your SWOT analysis. You explain what SWOT analysis is, and then you do the different components of SWOT analysis. What are the strengths of your project? What are the weaknesses? What are the opportunities that are available? And what are the threats, right? So by the time you do that and then you have your conclusion, you will be fine. I believe you will be fine. If I allow for me, if I say I want to read your work first before I mark it, everybody will want to do the same. So it implies that I'll have to look at the same material 2 times. That will be suicidal.
Thanks, Patrick.
Patrick, I just want to.
Yeah, go
okay, let's say now, okay, you've just started to mark it, and then when you come to my assignment on Nompilo's, on Bonisu's assignment, and then you find that, okay, this person was coming right, but then there's one step that you missed out or you missed out. Would you give a feedback to say, okay, if we can fix this section,
okay,
are we going to get such?
No, there won't be such. I will give feedback, but the feedback is not for you to fix and return back for me to give you 100%. First and foremost, 100% is only for God. You get that? Nobody can get 100%.
Patrick, some of us, we are rusty. We haven't studied in like over 10 years.
Yeah, that's why I'm saying that. No. I will be as lenient as possible. I am always lenient in my marking. I understand the fact that you are busy. And even for those people that are not busy, even full-time students, I am being considerate. A student is always a student, right? So one thing we need to first clear is that nobody can get 100%. Only God can get 100%. So as long as you are not competing with God, you are fine with being human, then you'll be fine, right? If you get 70, 80, and 90, I think you are okay. You don't need 100. In fact, you only need 70 to have A, right? So that is achievable. A is achievable, but you will not get 100. And when I do my assessment, when I do my marking, I'm going to raise the things that made your points, what affected your final score. So if it's in your introduction, I'm going to tell you, your introduction was not clearly stated, or your introduction was missing A, B, C, and D. If it's in the systems, I'm going to tell you what you did not add in your system. If your example is not sufficient, I'm going to tell you it is your example. I'm going to definitely identify the thing you can work on, but you will not be repeating it. It's just for you to note the things you probably fail. The only thing I may be doing is that if you fail so badly that you probably get a 0, or you get less than 40%, which is the pass mark, then I may be lenient enough to say, based on this comment I've made, please redo your work and resubmit. So the people that will probably be resubmitting are those people that have more less than 40%. Is that fair?
It is fair.
Okay.
It is fair. It is fair.
So basically, that is what will happen, right? And if I give you your assignment to redo, you cannot score more than 50. So if
For a second chance.
yeah, if I give you a second chance, then you cannot score more than 50%.
All right.
For you to have a second chance, you must score less than 40%. So if you have 41%, there's no second chance for 41.
So, sorry, Patrick, I got disconnected a bit. You're saying to have a second chance, you have to have how many percent?
39 and below.
Oh.
So if you have 40 and above, you don't have second chance. That is your final score. So yeah, that is how we are going to run.
It is clear, Patrick. And thank you. I just want to leave the class now.
Oh yeah. The class is over already. I'm just asking. I've said I've given my buys. I'm just staying behind to answer questions if there are any. So yes, thank you very much for making yourself available for the class.
All right, thanks you.
Okay, thank you, people.
Thanks, Patrick. Cheers, guys. Bye.
Yeah, bye.
Weekend, enjoy.
Yes, have a blessed weekend. Okay, Musa, my contact is, I'm just going to type it quickly. patrick.h@ukzn.ac.za. Musa, do you have that? I'm going to stop recording now. Okay, great.